Picture this. You're sitting at your grandmother's 75th birthday dinner, surrounded by family, when someone casually mentions the $1,500 your grandmother has been sending you every month for college. The only problem, you've never seen a single penny of it. That's exactly what happened to me, and what I discovered next about my own parents will shock you. By the end of this video, you'll understand how family betrayal led me to the most empowering decision of my life. But first, let me take you back to where this all began. My name is Emily Bennett, and for most of my life, I lived in my older brother Ryan's shadow. Ryan wasn't just 2 years older than me. He was everything my parents dreamed of in a child. The math genius who breezed through calculus while I struggled with algebra. The debate star who commanded attention while I sat quietly in the background. The golden boy who could do absolutely no wrong. The favoritism in our household wasn't subtle. It was glaring, painful, and constant. When Ryan turned 16, my parents surprised him with a brand new car, complete with a giant red bow sitting in our driveway. I'll never forget watching from my bedroom window as he jumped up and down with excitement. My parents beaming with pride as neighbors came out to admire their generous gift. 2 years later, when I turned 16, I got a bicycle. Not just any bicycle, a used one from a clearance sale. I still remember forcing that smile, saying "thank you" through gritted teeth, and riding it around the block with tears streaming down my face, hoping no one would notice. But there was one person who always made me feel seen: my grandmother Grace. Grandma Grace was different. She remembered my birthday without being reminded. She knew I preferred chamomile tea over coffee. When I spoke, she actually listened, not half-heartedly while scrolling through her phone, but with genuine interest and care. She was the only adult in my life who seemed to understand that I was trying, even when no one else noticed my efforts. The day before I left for college, she pulled me aside, hugged me tight, and whispered words that would haunt me for the next 2 years. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll help you while you're in school. You won't have to do this alone." That promise became my lifeline. I got accepted into Pine Hill University, a small but respected college, about 2 hours from home. It wasn't Harvard, but it was mine. I'd earned a partial scholarship, not enough to cover everything, but enough to give me hope that I could finally escape the constant comparisons at home. I moved into a modest dorm room with my roommate Sarah, who would later become one of the most important people in my life. As I settled into college life, I did what any financially stressed student would do. I checked my bank account religiously, waiting for the support Grandma had promised. Nothing came. I waited another week, then another. I convinced myself it was just a delay. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she was waiting for the right time. Maybe there was some paperwork to sort out. Eventually, desperation forced me to call my mom and ask about it. Her reaction was explosive. "How selfish can you be?" She snapped through the phone. "Grandma is having money problems. You should be ashamed of yourself for even asking. Go get a job instead of begging." I stared at my phone long after she hung up, feeling smaller than I'd ever felt in my life. That night, I applied to every cafe and bookstore within walking distance of campus. I wasn't going to beg, I was going to survive. I got hired at a small cafe just off campus. It wasn't glamorous, long hours, the smell of burnt coffee permanently embedded in my hair, and minimum wage. But they let employees take home leftovers and buy unsold pastries at a discount, which meant I could eat without spending more than a few dollars a day. Still, it wasn't enough. Tuition bills, textbooks, toiletries, transit, everything added up faster than my paychecks could cover. I picked up a second job writing content online for small websites. It paid pennies per article, but every cent counted when you're choosing between buying shampoo and buying dinner. I was attending school full-time, working 2 jobs, and living off microwave meals and day-old muffins. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. I'd come home after closing shifts, collapse on my bed for a few hours, then wake up to finish essays or edit blog posts before my morning classes. My body ached constantly. I lost weight. My jeans started hanging loose on my shrinking frame. Dark circles became permanent fixtures under my eyes. And still, no money came from Grandma. The breaking point came when the cafe closed for a week due to health inspections. No work meant no paycheck, which meant no food allowance and no backup plan. I stretched instant oatmeal packets as far as they would go, adding more and more water each day to make them last longer. On the fourth day, I nearly passed out in the library. Sarah found me slumped over my desk, pale and shaking from hunger. She didn't ask questions. She just handed me a sandwich and pulled cash out of her wallet. "Eat," she said firmly. When I protested that I couldn't pay her back, she shook her head and said, "We'll figure it out later." That night, she called her parents and borrowed $500 to help me replace my broken laptop, my only lifeline for school and work. I kept track of every dollar she gave me in a spiral notebook, not knowing when I'd be able to repay her, but swearing that I would. Meanwhile, my parents continued singing Ryan's praises during our occasional phone calls. "He's doing amazing at college," they'd gush. "Too busy with midterms to come home." But that's what dedication looks like. I hadn't spoken to Ryan directly in months. Our text exchanges were short and vague. He was always too busy to talk. I figured he was thriving, just like they said. And me, I was barely hanging on, working myself into the ground, starving, exhausted, and invisible. But I didn't complain. I didn't call Grandma again. I didn't want to be called selfish a second time. What I didn't know was that Grandma hadn't forgotten me. She had never stopped trying to help. It just took one family birthday party and a single unexpected question for the truth to finally break the surface. Grandma's 75th birthday fell on a Saturday in October. I scraped together enough cash to buy a bus ticket home and found a small wooden frame on clearance for a photo of the two of us. Me in my graduation gown, her arms around me, both of us smiling. It wasn't much, but it was all I could afford. By the time I arrived, the party was already in full swing. The house smelled like cinnamon and roasted chicken. Relatives filled every room, and laughter echoed down the hallway. Everyone was there except Ryan. "Where's Ryan?" I asked as I hugged my mom. "Oh, he's swamped with exams." My dad jumped in quickly. "Sends his love, though." The dining table was overflowing with more food than I'd seen in months. My stomach growled audibly as I sat down, trying not to look desperate while filling my plate. We toasted to Grandma's health, her kindness, her strength, and then the meal began. I was quietly enjoying my first real meal in weeks when my cousin Josh blurted out across the table, "Emily, you look different. Have you lost weight?" A hush fell over the room. I could feel every eye turn toward me. Before I could answer, my mom laughed it off. "You know how these college girls are, probably on some trendy diet, intermittent fasting or whatever." I opened my mouth to correct her, but Grandma beat me to it. "Josh is right," she said, her tone sharp. "Emily, you're too thin. Isn't the $1,500 I send you each month enough for groceries?" My fork slipped from my hand and clattered against my plate. The room went dead silent. "What money?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Grandma frowned. "The money I've been sending your parents every month since you started school." I shook my head slowly. "I haven't gotten anything. Not a cent." Gasps echoed around the table, all eyes fixed on my parents, who looked like they'd swallowed their tongues. Grandma's voice turned to ice cold. "Robert, Linda, care to explain?" My mother's lips trembled. "Mom, this isn't the time. We should talk about this later." "I'm not waiting," Grandma cut her off. "You should be ashamed. Tell us what you did with Emily's money. And if you don't tell the truth, I'm going to the police." My mother burst into tears. My father stared at his plate, like it held the secrets of the universe. Finally, he muttered words that shattered my world. "We used it for Ryan. He has a gambling problem. It started in high school, got worse in college." I couldn't breathe. I thought about all the nights I went to bed hungry, All the double shifts I worked while exhausted. All the times I thought Grandma had abandoned me, but she hadn't. The people who were supposed to protect me were the ones who had betrayed me most. The rest of the party passed in a blur. My hands trembled with every bite. My parents had been stealing from me, lying to both me and Grandma for years. I kept thinking about those nights I skipped meals, the shame of borrowing money from Sarah, the exhaustion of juggling 2 jobs, all while Grandma had been faithfully sending help. After the confrontation, Grandma stood from the table and said calmly, "Please continue enjoying the celebration. I need to speak with Robert and Linda." They followed her down the hallway like scolded children. The door to her office shut behind them with a decisive click. I couldn't stay at the table. I wandered to the hallway and stood near the closed door, listening. Their voices were muffled, but I caught fragments. Years of lying. I was trying to help him. No excuse. 30 minutes later, my parents emerged. My mom's face was blotchy from crying. They didn't say a word to anyone. They just picked up their coats and left without even looking at me. Grandma came out shortly after, her expression tight, hands shaking slightly. She clapped once and forced a smile. "Who's ready for cake?" she asked, as if nothing had happened. The guests tried to pretend things were normal, but the energy had shifted completely. Whispers replaced laughter. No one met my eyes. When the last guest left, Grandma turned to me. "You're not going home tonight," she said gently. "Stay here for a few days." I nodded, more relieved than I expected. The thought of going back to that house made my stomach twist. The next morning, she sat me down at her kitchen table with a cup of coffee. Her eyes looked tired, but her voice was steady. "I want to tell you everything," she began. "I never paid your tuition directly. I gave the money to your parents because I thought it would be easier that way." I said nothing, just held my mug tightly. "You received a partial scholarship," she continued. "So instead of the full $100,000 I had saved for your education, they only needed $40,000. They kept the other $60,000. I blinked, stunned by the magnitude of their theft. "There's more," Grandma added, meeting my eyes without flinching. "Ryan never went to college." My breath caught in my throat. They told everyone he was away studying, but really, they sent him to another city to get him away from his gambling friends. It didn't work. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Grandma's voice softened. "They used your future to cover up his failures." And with that sentence, everything in my life suddenly made sense. After that morning, something fundamental shifted inside me. For the first time in years, I wasn't confused or angry. I was clear. The lies were no longer tangled in my mind. I finally understood the full story. And that gave me something I hadn't felt in a long time: control. Grandma insisted on helping properly from then on. "I'm transferring $2,000 directly to your account every month," she said firmly. "No more middlemen." I cried. Not out of sadness this time, but relief. I stayed with her for 3 days. We talked about school, my job, my future. For the first time in forever, someone was truly listening, really listening. She wasn't distracted, she didn't interrupt, and she never once compared me to Ryan. When it was time to go back to campus, she drove me to the bus station and handed me an envelope. "Emergency fund," she said. "Don't argue, just take it." Back at school, my life began to change rapidly. The first thing I did was quit my content writing job. With Grandma's support, I could finally breathe. I kept the cafe job on weekends, not because I had to anymore, but because I genuinely enjoyed it. I liked the customers, the rhythm, the familiarity. For the first time, work felt like a choice rather than a desperate necessity. I bought a few new outfits. I stocked my mini fridge with real food. I replaced my broken laptop and paid back every cent I owed Sarah. For the first time since college began, I wasn't hungry all the time. I wasn't constantly exhausted, and my GPA began to climb steadily. One of my professors pulled me aside after class. "Your work shows real insight," she said. Have you thought about applying for a research assistant position? Before, I would have said no. I wouldn't have had the time or energy. But now, I said yes. It felt like stepping out of a dark tunnel and finally seeing sunlight. It didn't take long before my parents showed up again. About a month after the birthday party revelation, I was in my dorm studying when someone knocked on the door. Sarah answered, peeked out, then turned to me with raised eyebrows. "It's your parents," she whispered. I froze. Sarah grabbed her bag and muttered something about a study session before slipping out, giving me space to handle what was coming. My dad sat awkwardly in my desk chair while my mom perched on the edge of Sarah's bed, wringing her hands. They looked older somehow, more tired. My mom had deep circles under her eyes, and my dad's hair seemed grayer than I remembered. "We need to talk," he said. I didn't respond. "We want you to speak with Grandma," my mom added, "about the will." There it was, not, "How are you?" Not, "We're sorry." Just straight to the point, what they needed from me. "No," I said simply. "Why not?" my dad asked, as if genuinely baffled. I stared at them, my voice colder than I intended. "Because I'm done cleaning up your mess." My mom leaned forward, her voice cracking. "You don't understand what we've been through with Ryan. It's been hell." "No," I said firmly. "I don't understand, because you never told me. You just let me believe Grandma had abandoned me. You lied to her, and you let me suffer." I was gaining momentum now, years of suppressed anger finally finding their voice. "I was starving. I was working 2 jobs just to survive, while you were telling everyone how great Ryan was doing at college." My dad sighed dismissively. "You're exaggerating." My voice rose. "Really? Then let me tell you what 'not that bad' looks like. It looks like eating leftover food off customers' plates at the cafe because I hadn't eaten all day. It looks like wearing the same 3 outfits for 2 years. It looks like crying myself to sleep when my laptop broke because I had no way to fix it." My mother's lip trembled. "Your brother has a disease. He needed help." "And I didn't," I shot back. "You chose to help him by sacrificing me." They didn't apologize, not once. Instead, they asked me to lie to Grandma, to tell her they'd supported me all along, to convince her not to change her will so they could access more money to help Ryan again. I walked to the door and opened it. "You made your choices," I said. "Now live with them." They left without another word, and I stood in that doorway, heart pounding, finally understanding what power felt like. After they left, I collapsed onto my bed, shaking. Sarah returned an hour later, took one look at my face, and sat beside me. "That bad?" she asked gently. "Worse," I whispered, and told her everything. What they'd said, what they'd wanted. She listened silently until I finished. "They really didn't apologize," she said incredulously. "Not even close. They just wanted me to convince Grandma to change her will so they could use the money to help Ryan again." Sarah rolled her eyes. "Unbelievable." She squeezed my hand. "What are you going to do?" I didn't hesitate. Move forward. For the first time, I truly meant it. No more hoping they'd change. No more wishing for the kind of parents I deserved. I had what I needed now: clarity, support, and most importantly, self-respect. Over the next few weeks, I buried myself in my studies. Without the crushing weight of financial stress, I could finally focus properly. I bought textbooks instead of struggling to borrow worn copies from the library. I replaced my worn-out shoes. I ate 3 meals a day without guilt or counting every coin. Every Sunday, Grandma called, and our conversations became my favorite part of the week. She never pushed me to forgive my parents. She just listened, supported me, and made me laugh with stories about her youth. "You know," she said during one call, "I was the forgotten child too." I paused, surprised. "You were?" "Oh yes," she chuckled. "My older sister was the beauty. My younger brother was the prodigy. I was just Grace, the middle one, invisible." "How did you handle it?" "I built my own life, found people who valued me for who I was. Like you're doing now." Those words stuck with me and gave me strength I didn't know I had. 3 months later, I got a text from a cousin. "Did you hear about your parents' house?" My heart skipped a beat. I called Grandma immediately. She filled me in calmly. My parents were selling their home. Ryan had racked up new gambling debts, this time with loan sharks, the kind of people you don't borrow money from twice. The situation was serious and potentially dangerous. Then Grandma asked quietly, "Do you want to help them?" I thought about it carefully. I thought about all the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, all the lies, all the betrayal, all the times they'd chosen Ryan over me without a second thought. "No," I said finally. "They made their choice." And I meant it completely. 3 months passed without a word from my parents. No texts, no voicemails, nothing. And honestly, their absence felt more like relief than loss. Spring semester was in full swing, and for the first time in my life, I was genuinely thriving. My GPA had jumped from a 3.1 to a 3.8. My professors were taking notice of my work and offering opportunities I'd never dreamed of before. I was still working weekends at the cafe because I enjoyed it, but I wasn't exhausted anymore. I had time to think, time to focus, time to dream about my future. Most importantly, I had peace. Then one afternoon, after a long study session in the library, my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello." There was a pause, then a voice, soft, familiar, and completely unexpected. "Emily, it's Ryan. I'm calling from the rehab center." I froze, my heart racing. "I'm in treatment again," he continued. "Part of the program is making amends." I sat down on a nearby bench, gripping the phone tightly. "I know what Mom and Dad did," he said. "Using your money, lying to Grandma. I didn't know at the time, but that doesn't make it right." I didn't say anything, processing this unexpected apology. "I'm not calling to ask for forgiveness," he added. "I just wanted you to know I'm sorry for everything." His voice was different, steadier, quieter than I remembered. Less arrogant, more genuine. "You hurt me," I said finally. "Even if you didn't mean to, you were always the one they chose, and I was always the one left behind." "I know," he replied simply. "I see that now." We sat in silence for a few seconds, the line crackling between us. "I hope you get better," I said quietly. "I really do." "Thanks," he said. "That means a lot." After we hung up, I stayed on that bench for a while, watching students pass by, some laughing, some rushing to class, others chatting over coffee, just regular college life. And for the first time, I felt like I was truly part of it. Ryan's call was the first real apology I'd ever received from anyone in my family. I didn't know if he would stay clean, or if my parents would ever understand the damage they'd caused. But for the first time, I realized it didn't matter. Their choices no longer defined me. I had my own path now, a life that wasn't built around fixing someone else's mistakes, a life with boundaries, dreams, and people who genuinely valued me. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for sure: I would be okay. The weeks that followed felt different, not dramatic or triumphant, just quiet, grounded, and steady. I wasn't waiting for anyone to show up for me anymore. I had learned how to show up for myself. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud or cruel. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's simply living a good life, a real one, a peaceful one, built on your own terms. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to choose yourself over people who were supposed to protect you, I want you to know something important. You are not alone. And you are not wrong for choosing peace over pain. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who values you, and who helps you become the person you're meant to be. Sometimes that means walking away from the people who share your DNA and building your own chosen family instead. The best revenge against those who never believed in you, believing in yourself and proving them wrong by living your truth. What do you think? Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between family loyalty and your own well-being? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story meant something to you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life stories, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Until next time, remember, you deserve to be chosen, especially by yourself.